Thank you, Stu. And thank you, everybody, for sticking with us. It's a Thursday afternoon, and it's been 2 full days of incredible content. And as Stu mentioned, I think marketing is incredibly fun. And it's really important because in order for these products to achieve what everybody's objectives here is, which is to truly change the food system and change the world, we need to get people to come along with us. And, doing it through storytelling is incredibly effective. And so I wanted to spend a little bit of time with you today and share some of the things that I've learned throughout my career. A little bit about me. As Stu said, my name is Irina Gary. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Change Foods. And I had, quite a classic start to my career. I have over a decade of experience in business strategy, product innovation, brand building at some of the world's leading organizations. And I was having a fantastic time and building my career and achieving a lot of my personal goals up until 10 years ago when I had my baby. And to be honest with you, my whole world changed. As I was looking at this little baby of mine, I kept thinking, how do I keep him safe? How do I keep him healthy? How do I provide a future for him that is bright and that I could, feel good about? And that really started my journey in learning about food, first through kind of a health lens and nutrition, and later layering on understanding of how our broader food systems work and the impact that it has on our planet, as many of you mentioned. And personal kind of combined with professional for me when I had a chance to work on two of the most famous plant-based food brands in the world, Silk and So Delicious, where, I was lucky enough to work on really great products that change a lot of people's lives and make a lot of people's journey towards plant-based and sustainable eating easier. But of course, there are limitations to what plant-based can do, and kind of taking a deeper dive and understanding there's this entire universe of exciting technology is coming, brought me to Change Foods, where I am today, where our mission is to build a kind, sustainable, and thriving food system, starting, of course, with cheese. We are working on animal-free cheese that melts and stretches and does all the things that we want cheese to do without using animals. In ways that many of the companies here are trying to do. And of course, when we're looking to do something so dramatically new, we need to think through very carefully of how do we communicate this? How do we connect with consumers? And how do we bring them on board to this entirely new food system? And so I wanted to spend a few minutes of the time today and share with you some key principles and strategies that I've learned in my career of how do we do this? What is the storytelling about? And we're going to talk about 5 different things: emotional connection and the importance of it. That it's really important to actually pick a lane and stand for something. The fact that people don't need technology as much as we all, love to discuss here. Finding a tribe and what is this tribe? And of course, walking the talk. So I think those are key principles, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time and walk you through some of those. So let's start with emotions. Humans are emotional beings. We connect with each other, we love each other, and it matters a great deal to us. And food is an incredibly emotional category. And as much as we in this conference and in the state of technology today geek out on the details of it, when it comes to final products and market, food is so many things. It is love, it's enjoyment, it's connection, it's how we show appreciation for our friends and nourish our kids. It is rarely a rational, well thought out argument. It's usually me over we, it's taste over health, it's momentary enjoyment over planetary sustainability. It's heart over head most of the time. And frankly, that's why we're finding ourselves in the health and planetary situation that we're in. And it is not reasonable to assume that we will rationally find our way out of it. So taking an emotional approach to speaking to people about food is where I think the conversation would be more productive. When it comes to brand building, I firmly believe in rooting a brand in emotion and really avoiding that kind of careful middle. My favorite mantra is love me or hate me, just don't like me. I feel that a lot of the newer brands and established brands as well, frankly, try to be all things to all people and not upset anybody and talk about, all of the different benefits without being offensive or upsetting. And by doing so, they end up kind of being lumped with everyone else. And as you see in a lot of food categories, it then comes down to product and pricing and just kind of pennies game. And the brands that truly stand out, brands that we all love and believe in and support, have a very different relationship with us. And they do that through storytelling. And how do you do that? You say, okay, what do we do here? Well, pick a lane. A lot of us talk about that foods we make are better for the planet, better for the animals, they're more sustainable. And let me tell you, every plant-based food brand says basically the same thing. And what it does is it creates the sea of sameness where nobody really stands out. And I think when we are trying to be all things to all people, we tend to get lost. And so what I wanted to show you is it is possible to pick a lane, and it's important for each brand to kind of find what that lane is. And I'll show you just the 3 examples here and see if you could figure out which lane they picked. Here's one. Here's another. Now they're all plant-based, but they have a very clear focus. And here's a third. As you can see, just at a glance, a brand that has a clear vision and a purpose and a lane is easy to spot. And it's easy for them to find what they're talking about, who they're talking to, and what they stand for. And I think that's incredibly effective. Now, third is, again, we're all here in technology, and I know it's early stage and a lot of companies in R&D, and I think it's perfectly appropriate for us at this point, especially in a venue like this, to talk about technological differences and unique ways that we're developing our products. But when it comes to bringing food to market, I think the shift towards food is what ultimately leads to greater market success. Obviously, Impossible Foods is a incredible success story, both from a unique technology and unlocking the taste and the performance of their infamous Impossible Burger with the heme. But you can also see how the story changed dramatically from the early days of talking about technology and what makes this unique and special to now being firmly rooted in being a burger. If we look at their marketing today, it is meat, right? The campaign says we are meat. It's shown as meat. It cooks like meat. It's sold exactly where meat is in the same packaging, in the meat case at similar prices. And it's available in the same venues, in the same formats that people are used to seeing. And that's what, in my opinion, is driving a lot of success, where some of the consumers of Impossible Foods today, I would venture a guess, not all of them are even aware of the magical special heme that makes it so delicious. Finding a tribe. So what is this tribe you speak of, right? We're all talk about flexitarian. Well, flexitarian is not a tribe. It is way too broad to be a tribe and way too undefined. Just like 20 grams of protein is not a story. And it's important for us to challenge ourselves and think about how the world of brands and the role of brands has really changed over the last decade or so, where brands have gone from being kind of a promise of a certain quality or properties or performance and a consistency to now being more of a relationship. They're more personal. They're more focused on what does this tell me about me, right? What does it stand for in the world, and how does it fit into my worldview? So brands had really moved away from being features to being people. And I think it's important for us to think about, who is it that our brand speaks to? And, it's important to sit and ask yourself, within the universe of possible consumers, who exactly am I talking to? What are their values, right? Beyond the product needs, states, and features and benefits, what are they about in their lives? What do they stand for? What is their rally cry? And most importantly, how does my brand then reflect or reinforce or shape that identity? And that's how you build this deep connection and relationship that really cannot be broken or easily substituted by another company in the space. I'll give you an example. Oatly had spent several years building, their technology and their company, and they've really evolved drastically over the years from, starting out as, a healthy oat drink as a milk alternative, very kind of feature focused, to, becoming an oat drink, more of an ingredient focused. And they've really found their stride in the last few years when they've completely shifted to being Oatly, right? And I'm sure many of you have seen their phenomenal advertising where they've, found their tribe, they've found their voice. They have this awesome and unique way to connect with their consumers in very non-traditional ways. Nowhere do they talk about their proprietary IP of milking the oats. And more importantly, their marketing efforts are really focused on connecting with their tribe, being part of their lives, being part of that cultural moment. If I look at their, help dad, by talking about milk, that is because this is reality and a pain point for what their tribe goes through when there are real food wars happening in their house every day, and they are banging their head against the wall, trying to convince their parents to reconsider their food choices, right? They are part of the conversation about labeling and regulation and getting involved in Amendment 171 in Europe and running a campaign about, challenging the packaging regulations that were proposed. They're running quirky spots on Super Bowl and then selling T-shirts saying, that was a crazy ad, right? Because that is relevant. That is what puts them in the moment and in the culture and connects them to their tribe. All that said, I think it's really important to keep in mind that this is food. And I tell you, don't be weird. Being quirky, being unique is great. Being weird when it comes to food could be a death knell. So what does that mean? That means certain parameters of familiarity and certain category norms should be maintained. You wouldn't want to put milk in a paint can. You probably don't want to put cheese in a ketchup aisle. You probably don't want to price yourself in stratospheric terms outside of the category, or come up with entirely new usage occasions that people don't understand how to fit into their lives. Yes, there's room for innovation and format and ingredients and occasions, absolutely. But there's certain key tenets where it is food, familiarity rules, and kind of tradition and culture, and the quickness of, honey, go get me this needs to work. And so the weirder you get, the more category norms you break, the harder of a barrier you have for people to understand how does that fit into their lives. And lastly, I want to mention the importance of walking the talk. Obviously, a lot of companies here are incredibly passionate about, sustainability and building a better world. And it is increasingly important to consumers. Again, we're shifting from feature focused brand communication to what does this brand stand for? And that goes beyond words. It is more about what you do than what you say, right? So just saying you're a sustainable company will only get you so far. And a lot of consumers, especially the younger generation, they see right through it, and they will not support companies that are not genuine in their efforts. You guys know consumers care deeply about sustainability. So, I thought I'd show you a couple of examples, Patagonia being a famous one for really walking the walk, right? And aligning their whole organization to truly promote that mission, from worn wear to activism to, not taking, part in consumer driven sales days. And consumers are buying that, right? That they're supporting that and they're willing to pay the premium to be a part of that mission. So pulling it all together, we talk about emotions, picking a lane, don't geek out on technology, find your tribe, and really build something that is true to your mission through and through. Couple of last thoughts to leave you with. Where do you start? I think especially as a startup, it's important to understand that as a founding team, you are integral to your brand. And so the way I like to start is ask the team, where's your heart at? What do you care most about? Don't read some report or trends or whatever. You are the people building it. And so it needs to be genuine and true to you. Understand why would somebody love you and your brand, and what will truly resonate with them. And do what feels right. Not every brand can or should be a rebel. Not every brand could be as hip as Oatly. And not every founder is going to be good on TikTok. So understand kind of where that intersection is between your tribe, you, and where your brand fits in. And I think that's where you truly can find something special and unique, and that's, not possible to replicate. And if you forget everything else I said, just remember that when it comes to brand building, don't play it safe is my advice. And that is it. I'll take some questions.
Irina, thanks so much. That was fantastic. And we are getting a couple of questions starting to roll in. So folks, please, if you have a question for Irina, enter it into the chat box. I'll try to get to you. I'm going to get to the first one or two that are already in there, but I just want to first say that was so refreshing and fun for me. I came up as a sales guy, and an old friend of mine, I heard him once in a meeting say something that I've stolen and quoted a million times, which is sales guys go to bed at night and dream that they're going to wake up in marketing, right? Because it's a lot more fun. But I thought, you're spot on. And it was really refreshing in this community to hear someone really talking about brand. This conference was supposed to take place in Silicon Valley, where the expression is product market fit. Everything that you were saying about tribe and resonating and differentiating and making deeper connections with consumers just made a lot of sense to me. I just wanted to ask you first, you talk about storytelling. And so as a guy who spent a lot of time, I ran a brand, a CPG brand, and spent a lot of time in grocery retailers. How detailed can your storytelling be, and in what channels, right? Because as a consumer walks down the aisle in a store, you've got a half a second to communicate something. So to really tell a story, do you need more detail? Do you need longer time? Do you use social? How do you go about telling your story once you have it?
To me, it's all about layers, right? So what you are going to accomplish in store is very different than what you can do in social, for example, right? And it's all about, at retail, honestly, it's about simplicity. And like I said, not being weird. A lot of the times I see brands kind of shoot themselves in the foot by just breaking category norms and just simply not fitting in or making sense. And you're not going to ever be able to tell your entire brand story at retail. Look at Impossible. It's just as, Impossible made from plants, end of story. And then it comes down to all the other layers of communication. It's social, it's influencers, it's what industry writes about you, it's what, News talks about you. And so it's a multifaceted approach. And that's where, that's why brand building is a discipline, right? It's not just packaging. It's not just a logo. It's actually, I would argue that logo is probably the least important features of your brand. It's what you do that matters more.
Really interesting. Nate Crosser asked, is it ever okay to be weird? And he uses Soylent as an example. Nate, I'm going to take that question for Irina and tell you, no, don't be weird. And no one your age is supposed to know what Soylent means. It only makes sense to people my age. So all love to you, Nate, but we're skipping that one and going right to Sophia, because she asks a really good and provocative question for Irina. So she asks how you've applied some of these insights that you were just, teaching to us at your own brand at Change Foods.
Well, I couldn't tell you everything. We're still building it. Change is obviously super early stage. And like most of you, we don't have product and market. So a lot of our marketing is still under wraps and yet to be unveiled. But that is my plan, to follow my own advice and build something that will be relevant to consumers.
Okay, so let's just put a pin in that and agree that fermentation enabled 2023, Irina is going to have to come back and explain why they wrote the story and then how they told it, right? And then, so Sarah Borg is asking a question that is a little hard for me to get to what the fundamental substance of her question is. And I'm wondering can you read it? Do you have it in front of you as well, Irina?
Don't.
No, she asks, I mean, I think I'm following her, but you might pick this up better. She says, when you say me over we, do you think sustainability will work then as a selling point? To make an impact, products like this need to reach masses. But if masses think me over we, do we need a different selling point? I mean, I kind of follow her. Do you?
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? Because a lot of consumers, as we see, care deeply about sustainability, especially the younger generations. What I mean is, in the moment of individual choice, the me takes priority over we most of the time. Now, if you have a brand that nailed the we part, that is known for it, right? It stands for sustainability, but it also ticks the boxes of it is delicious, it is nutritious, it is available in my grocery store. And now it's a choice of this versus that, in not a dissimilar way to Impossible, right? Where, yes, it has an incredible sustainability story and a founder story and all of those things. But ultimately, for me to buy this and for me to make this part of my daily lives, it has to be in my grocery store and it has to be reasonably priced, right? And then I have to bring it home and it has to taste good. So that's where the me comes in. And that's why, veggie burgers didn't take off to a large extent, right? That's why tofu burgers didn't go very far. That's why plant-based cheese is struggling, because when it comes to pizza, the hell with the planet, I'm buying regular pizza is kind of where most consumers are falling out. And that's where it's important to align the mission with product and brand delivery.
Interesting. And I actually have one last question for you. It's kind of a follow-up to that. And one of the things that I had jotted down that I wanted to ask you, you talk about your value choosing between value propositions that are based on either nutrition or sustainability. And I thought that was really interesting because it's very much coherent with everything you just said for the last 20 minutes, which to me, I'm not a marketer, but the little experience I have in marketing when I struggled with it with my own brand, what you just said for the last 20 minutes was music to my ears. It's focus, right? It's making deeper connections with a smaller audience rather than superficial ones with a big audience that don't get you anywhere. Do you have to choose your value proposition, one or the other, and really lean into it? Can you have both? Can you have a primary and a secondary?
Yes. So yes, you have to focus. It doesn't mean you don't do the other two. Like, and the world is not limited to those three things. There's other reasons. But you have to focus because, and look at the examples that I showed you, right? Forks over knives. They stand on health. but their food is delicious, right? And it's amazing and it's beautiful. And yes, it takes animals out of the equation as well. There's just not where their focus is. Like, and same with, Hero Foods. They stand for sustainability squarely, right? They're in that fighter mode. But their burgers look great. I haven't tried them, but they look like they would be delicious. And so it's not to the kind of totally ignoring and excluding the other things. But I think if you really try to constantly utter all things to all people, you completely lose focus and you stand for nothing at the end, right? And again, there's a graveyard in the grocery store of brands that try to be all things to all people. And I think you can see that those are not the brands that come to mind. Those are not the brands that command price premiums. And those are not the brands that you're proudly putting in your cart. Private label, you buy it because it's 20 cents cheaper, and tomorrow you buy somebody else. And there's zero loyalty to that. And again, if we're looking to build that moat around our brand that really nobody can take, brand can provide that, but it requires work and it requires focus.
Is that the summary, elevator pitch for you for today is lean in deeper and engage more deeply with your tribe than trying to go more broadly? Is that the big takeaway that the audience?
That's my mantra. Yeah, that's kind of how I play. I go narrow and go deep.